But Michael J. Murphy, again, is a journalist and filmmaker, and he's produced this film, What in the World Are They Spraying?, available at Infowars.com with G. Edward Griffin. Give us your breakdown on all of this, G. Edward Griffin, and the discovery of Monsanto developing these aluminum-resistant seeds.
Well, I certainly have to go along with the general observation that corporations like Monsanto, they're certainly not the only ones in the field. They're, you know, they have buildings full of scientists and marketing experts who are looking for ways to make money using, you know, their expertise, which is geoengineering. So naturally, we know that they have to be looking at this just from a pure business point of view.
Well, they admit they are.
Yeah, they admit they are. They brag about it, and they tell their stockholders that's what they're doing, and that's on the basis of how they pay dividends and all that sort of thing. I do say, however, that we have to be a little cautious when we talk about this, because these people are not dumb, and what the information they reveal, even in their patents, may not be trustworthy. Because, for example, now I don't want to get too deeply into this, but just to give you an idea of the pitfalls and the minefields that are out there for us, I've been talking with a biochemist recently that's said, well, the kind of aluminum that is in the patent that we're talking about is an aluminum which, believe it or not, is considered to be acidic. Depending on the molecular form of it, there is a form of aluminum that is acidic. At least it's more acidic than other forms, which are clearly in the alkaline range. And he said that if they sprayed that on the soil, it would have the effect of actually preserving the acidic quality of the soil rather than making it alkaline. I said, how can that be? Well, he explained it to me, and he convinced me. He's a scientist. He's a PhD guy. This has been his life work. And I said, oh, I see, because of the cations or those little electron connections, it measures as more acidic. That's right. So we both concluded that, well, that means that what they're spraying may not be what they patented for. It may be something else.
Oh, absolutely. There's hundreds of patents. In fact, I'll show listeners this right here. This is just one of the folders of our research for our chemtrail film. And we know it's a whole bunch of different programs and operations. But here's the $64 million question then to both of you. What type of aluminum do they find on Mount Shasta?
Well, they didn't test for any specific type of aluminum. However, getting back to the patents, I've spoken to a lot of scientists as well. In the concern, while everything that Ed says is truly correct, aluminum can easily be activated because it's a very complex metal. So, you know, while Ed is 100% correct with what he says, there's still that doubt because they are spraying aluminum and it can be activated very easily. So, you know, we don't want to completely rule that out. However, it is something that we're careful.
That's the only thing. We just have to be careful. And I might add, just to finish this out, that this fellow I was talking to said, well, there's another aspect to this that has nothing to do with pH. I said, what? Wow, what could that be? He said, well, he said all forms of aluminum tend to inhibit the ability of a plant to uptake moisture. So maybe we're looking at the wrong thing at this pH level. Any form of aluminum will inhibit the plant's ability to uptake moisture. And that's the reason that these seeds have to be genetically modified to deal with the moisture question, not necessarily the pH question.
Here's this giant folder I've got. While they're talking, I'm going to be flipping through it. We've got a giant section on patents, including something I've never seen anybody cover, for mixing aluminum dioxide and things with jet fuel to disperse it. I mean, this is incredible. And this is just one small folder, even though it's about 4 inches tall, of all of this garbage that's going on. And I think what G. Edward Griffin said is absolutely accurate. We don't know the larger operation. We just know that old-timers did test and said it's aluminum dioxide, barium salts, and other things. And now they admit, oh, we want to do tests with this to spray from jets. I mean, it's exactly what the old-timers analyzed it to be. And we know there's a weather modification, an over-the-horizon radar use of this. I mean, there's a lot of things going on here, G. Edward Griffin.
Well, that's right, and it's enough to make your head spin, and sometimes I think that's not to our advantage. We cover too much, and people get in overload, and they tend to just drop away because they can't hold it all up there the first time around. But I think the bottom line, and the thing to keep really focused on, is that the evidence is now overwhelming that they are dumping toxic stuff on us. They're spraying toxic stuff on us, supposedly for our own good, and to make matters worse, they're lying about it. That's all we really need to know. Before we ought to be energized into action with that information. Whether we understand all of the rest of this is, it's almost secondary. They're spraying us, they're killing us, they're making us sick, and they're lying to us about it.
That's right. I remember about 5 years ago, a caller called the show, and because you don't know the term to search for, we had a lot of government documents about weather modification and chemtrailing, but nothing. We have like 1,000 times now. I mean, I'm buried in it to my neck. And the caller said, Alex, search indirect and semi-direct aerosol campaign, indirect and semi-direct aerosol campaign, and you'll find it all. And I magically put it into Google, and it was tens of thousands of governments, universities, Department of Energy, and it was just a sea bigger than the Manhattan Project, literally, of just wild testing of everything you could imagine going on, aluminum being one small part of it, but something that keeps rearing its ugly head. But your comments on that, G. Edward and Mr. Murphy.
Well, go ahead, Michael.
Well, I can address that. While we believe they're spraying much more than simply the aluminum, barium, and strontium, we just focused on what's being found, which is scary enough. And I'm going to go back to the ecological problems that they're seeing around the world. And then the health problems, of course, that have seen a major increase. With just addressing that, and we are just scratching the surface with the film. We're hoping that other people might address this and question it and look into it more deeply.
Oh, you more than scratch the surface. You show they admit they've been doing testing. Now they're proposing it and publicly, and then denying they're even doing testing when you put them on the hot seat.
Well, they absolutely are emphatically denying this. Stuart Howe, Jeremy Ross Michel, and myself were at the AAAS meeting, and we confronted them on the current deployment of these programs, and they flat out denied it. And then we finished the film in Washington, D.C., where Jeremy, Paul, and myself went, and we addressed over 35 members of Congress and senators, all who, for the most part, they were literally running from this issue in what appeared to be a cover-up. And we also addressed Bart Gordon, who is the chair of the Science and Tech Committee, who just completely eluded the question when we spoke to him about the current deployment. So,
well, and if somebody took from what I was saying that this film was only scratching the surface, this film is extremely deep and covers a whole bunch of key subjects. That's the point I was making. I'm drowning in it. I've been trying to make one for 2 years, and it's just so much evidence and so many different programs, I don't know where to start. So I salute you guys getting this film out so quickly.
Well, one of our decisions we had to make right up front is, how many issues or sub-issues do we cover in it? I kind of looked at each other and said, man, we'll never get it done if we try and cover every aspect of it. So that was a decision just to focus on the spraying part and the toxicity part. And a moment ago when I said they're lying to us about it, that's a pretty strong statement, and I don't make statements like that unless I'm prepared to back it up. And the two areas in which they're lying to us, one is that they deny that this is underway, and the other area is that they deny that they know anything about toxicity. On the film, you see one of these scientists say, well, we don't know if it's toxic. We haven't looked into that yet. And now we have the papers right on the internet that show that they have looked into it, and they found out it's terribly toxic. So they're lying to us.
Hold on, let's expand on that after the break. Long segment coming up. Now, gentlemen, continuing here. G. Edward, you got cut off by the break. You were getting into how they're lying, how they're trying to cover it up, and you find the very scientist-owned papers, and I'm showing a Council on Foreign Relations paper that they put out 3 years ago, where they just came right out and admitted geoengineering workshop on unilateral planetary scale geoengineering, and oh, guess what? They talk, all these government heads talk about chemtrailing, spraying the atmosphere with aluminum dioxide. So, G. Edward, please continue.
Yeah, I think it bears repeating, Alex, because I've said that these people are lying, and that's a very strong statement. I wouldn't say that unless it was easy to prove. They're lying at two levels. First of all, they say that the spraying activity is not going on. They're just discussing it. And well, that's we've got that nailed. That's for sure. That's been going on for at least 10 years and longer. But now, to me, more important than that is that they say, well, they don't know whether this stuff is going to be harmful to health or not. They say, well, we haven't looked into that yet, but we certainly must do that. We won't start this spraying, you understand, until we've checked that out and made sure that, you know, it's okay. And now we find out that there are documents all over the place, and you can even get them on the Internet, documents showing research studies put out by the military, for one thing, where they've checked into the toxic effects of these compounds. And the conclusion of these reports is that they're highly toxic. So you know that the scientists who are promoting this are aware of those tests. So that means that they're lying to us. Now, this is serious stuff. And we're talking about the survival of the human race, and they're lying to us about it. So I can't think of it. If this doesn't make somebody mad, I don't know what will. They must already be drinking too much fluoride in their water.
Well, there's a major parallel to, and I want both of you to speak to this, Mr. Murphy first. The parallel is 20 years ago, or 19 years ago to be technical, the Army's own reports said depleted uranium is deadly. We can't use it in regular combat because it will increase cancers, organ failure. It's deadly. Then they went ahead and used it in 91. Now they're using it at shooting ranges and proving grounds everywhere. They're using it in wars in Serbia and in Afghanistan and Pakistan and Iraq. And it's 15 times the birth defects and cancers in children in Iraq in the cities where it's used. That's the British Medical Journal. It's 3 to 4 times deformities and cancers in troops. They know this, and they just have made the decision, we're going to use this and put it out everywhere. And it goes to not just Tuskegee, but now, oh, we're sorry, we shot up men, women, and children with syphilis by the thousands in Guatemala. That came out late last week. And this really goes to the point of they put out video games for kids like Super Mega Worm, where you go around as a worm, ridding the earth of humans, killing women with baby carriages and police. They have Al Gore, climate, funded groups like 1010 out saying, if you're not going to do something about global warming, we're going to kill you. And it shows them murdering children. I don't know if you've seen that. And they're now saying eco-fascism is good in The Guardian. We need tyranny. We don't care if you don't want to pay us carbon money. We're coming for you. It's an excuse for mass murder, an excuse for death. And these people are spraying their own families with the aluminum. They're using the DU. And really, they are just psychopathic people with a death wish who want to kill all humans when you really read what they have to say. G. Edward Griffin, I want to get your take on that, and Mr. Murphy.
Well, I'll start the ball rolling on that. I'm sure you're right, Alex. There are a lot of psychopaths out there that really hate the human race, and that they've been so indoctrinated, I suppose, that they feel that all of the problems of the world, especially the ecological problems, are a result of that ugly species called Homo sapiens. And so they kind of think of themselves as being godlike and not really Homo sapiens themselves. They're sort of above it all. And there are a few people that really want to see the elimination of the human race, or greatly reduced at any rate. But I think there a lot more people fit into a different category, which is that they're part of this collectivist system, and they're imbued with this desire to follow authority no matter what. And they're part of a system, and especially you find this in the military. You just follow orders.